All right, folks, welcome to week 9's Collaborate session. Once again, I do want to thank you for coming today instead of yesterday. I do apologize for that. I had a couple of doctor's appointments, one for me, one for my daughter, that I could not move, and they were at the exact time that we were doing these sessions. So I thought the better part of valor would be to reschedule the sessions for today. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started here. The agenda for this conference today is we're going to go through the slides for this week really quickly, as quickly as we can. We'll do a quick question and answers, and then we're going to go through the most recent 3 discussion topics. Right? So let's start off with the slides here for incorporating sources and citation. Once the writing process starts in earnest on the first draft, it becomes important to decide how research information is utilized. Now, there's going to be some elements that are going to influence the use of research. It's going to be whether it's going to be used for information or for persuasion. Okay. For informational use, you're going to want to integrate data and information without a stance, mainly so that you can show that you are being fair about the information you're presenting, that it's legitimate, that is verifiable. Okay. If you're using it for persuasive use, the information is you're going to want stuff that agrees with your stance. Okay. So that you can have a sense of support when you're writing about it. You have some further reasoning that will help prove your point. Also, it could be information that contradicts the writer's stance if it's something that you need to refute. Okay. Ultimately, it's going to be your own argument which dictates how research information will be used in your final project. Okay. Those are main ways that you can use research information. The ways that you integrate it into papers involve summary, paraphrase, and quotations. Okay. Each manner of integrating information has its own time and place in your work. However, regardless of which you use, the source must be cited. Okay, you need to tell us where you're getting this information from, especially if you didn't generate it yourself. Okay. So, when you're using summary, you want to condense the argument by keeping the main ideas intact. Okay. You want to use this method when the source's whole argument is relevant. Okay. If there's a lot to their argument and you want to just briefly tell what point he's trying to get across, then you want to use a summary. Use it when the source's view is an alternative or opposite one to yours. This way you can integrate it into your own work so that you can mention it in passing as you're going on with your reasoning, or you can mention it as something that you were going to try to refute. Also use it when the source's argument supports yours. Use the summary as part of your evidence. Paraphrase. Reproduce an idea from a source, but translate the information into your own words. Okay. This is when you're just trying to take the information, a small piece of it, and put it into your own work. Then you're going to want to make sure that it sounds like you're the one who wrote it. Okay. Use it when you want to incorporate factual information or one specific idea from a source. Use it when the source passage is too complex or technical. If they're using a lot of terminology that you need to simplify, that's going to be putting into your own words. Use it when you want to integrate a source's information without breaking the flow of the writing, using your own language. Okay, you wanted the whole paper to sound unified. Okay, so you need to make sure that if you're using paraphrases, they sound like you wrote them. They sound like your voice. Then have using short quotation. Work brief quotes from the source smoothly into the grammar of your own sentences. Okay. When you use this, you would use it when you need testimony from an authority and you want to have their actual wording for it. You use this when you want to reproduce the source's voice in a summary. If you feel that their voice lends it some authenticity. Okay. Also use it when the source language is memorable. Okay. If they use a turn of phrase that you feel there's no way you can top that by producing a paraphrase, then go ahead and quote it. We have long quotations. Okay, long quotations by definition are ones that are going to run 4 lines or longer in your typed work. Okay. When you're using long quotations, what you're doing is creating a block quote offset from the rest of the text to show it is a quotation. Okay. So you're going to use this when you intend to analyze or criticize a quotation. You follow the quote with your analysis. I'm not sure if I mentioned this in the lecture, but one thing I want to make clear here. A block quote should not be treated as its own paragraph. Okay, it is part of the paragraph that precedes it, and the text that immediately comes afterward, and that block quote are all considered to be one paragraph. So make sure that you are preceding your block quote with something pertinent to the block quote, and then following the block quote with some kind of analysis of what the block quote says. Okay. Then using language of testimony is important. If they're saying something significant, they're taking a long time to get to it, then you may have to use a block quote to get all their words out there because something might be significant that they're including in that long quote. Now let's talk about writing these techniques. Okay, writing a summary. Be as concise as possible to prevent distraction from your own argument. Theoretically, summaries can be as short as a sentence, but single sentence summaries have a tendency to not catch all of the nuance that's needed for properly summarizing the work. Okay. As an example here, I put this up in the lecture as well. There's a paragraph about the war on poverty that Yagelski gives you an example of a bad summary and a good summary. Okay. The bad summary is a single sentence. According to Edelman, the war on poverty captured the nation's imagination. Okay, fair enough, the original passage actually said that, but that's not really going into the idea that the original passage is trying to get across. Now, the second summary actually gives you the idea the original paragraph has. Edelman argues that although the idea of a war on poverty captured the country's imagination, programs focused on addressing poverty never amounted to more than a small part of President Lyndon Johnson's Great Society programs and the social programs of other administrations. That gives a little bit more detail. That gives you a better idea of what that original was about. It gets all the nuance out there, not so much a pat judgment, okay, like that first one was. We get to writing a paraphrase. Rewrite the passage in your own words using your own style. Avoid any wordings that sound too similar or exactly like the original source. Okay, that gets into a technique called patch writing, which we talked about in the lecture, where you're slipping in unchanged passages from the original. Okay, technically that's considered plagiarism because you're trying to present that stuff as your own original writing. Okay. And it's not. It's writing that comes from your source. Try writing the paraphrase twice in order to avoid patch writing and fully integrate the information into your own voice. So try to write it out the way you would describe it if you were the one who had originally written the information. All right. Next couple of slides are all talking about grammar techniques when it comes to quoting. Okay. When you're quoting complete sentences, you need to include a signal tag to show who is being quoted, something just to show attribution. You need to cite the page number if possible after the quote in parentheses. We talked briefly about the punctuation of this citation goes outside the end quote and the end punctuation after the citation. That's important. That's MLA formatting. We have quoting words and phrases. To do that, you do not separate them with commas. You simply just drop the quoted word or phrase into your sentence. Okay? Do not separate the quote with commas. And cite the page number at the end of the sentence containing the quotes. So don't put the citation immediately after the quotes. Just put it at the very end of the sentence. Then modifying a quotation. If you need to modify it because it doesn't match the flow of your writing, the best way to do it is put the modifications you need in brackets. Okay? There's two typical uses for this. One of them is for clarifying pronouns and dates. Okay, actually pronouns and prepositions. Okay, if you need to be more specific about who's saying something or when it happened or where it happened. Okay, you use brackets to insert that information. You also would use brackets for blanking on this, man. Oh yeah, verb tenses. Okay, if the tense of the verb tenses in the quote are present tense, but you're writing in past tense, you're going to want to use brackets to indicate which verbs you're changing in the quote to make it match the tense of the rest of the sentence. All right, omitting something from a quoted passage. You use an ellipsis, the 3 dots, to indicate information that's left out. Now, more modern works will also use the brackets, so they'll put the ellipsis in the brackets to indicate a change. Either way, though, is acceptable. Okay. Then quotes containing quotes. Use a standard quotation mark for the main quotation and a single mark quotation for the quote within a quote. Okay. And finally, we have block quotes. Used for quotes that will take up 4 or more lines in your own essays. Okay. When you do use a block quote, you need to indent the block quote on one tab space further than your regular paragraphs. So it has to be offset from the rest of the paper. Some textbooks show using an indent on the first line, but most block quotes do not indent the first line further than the rest of the quote. Right? All right, let's talk about attributing sources. Use attributive tags to show sources of research information. This is going to be easier to do with quotations than with other forms of research information. It's going to be easier for you to remember to do it with quotes. Okay. Typically, this is going to involve signal phrases when you mention an author and say that they say something or another, okay, or mentions or researched or calculates or whatever. Okay. The author's name can be included in parenthetical citations if you can't work it into an attributive tag. Okay, this is an MLA standard. Use attributive tags to show where source material begins and ends. Signal as often as necessary, sometimes as often as the start of each sentence integrating research information. Okay? Use as many signals as you can to clarify who's saying what. Use attributive tags to frame the source material in a rhetorical sense. This shows an evaluation of the source to enhance the reader's critical reading. Okay? Change the nouns in the attributive tags to something that's going to support you or something that's going to show your skepticism of the subject, okay, or of the person who's being quoted. Okay, for instance, you could say that so and so states. Okay, that's more positive. So and so claims. That's slightly more skeptical. Okay, find the verbs that you need to create these attributive tags. All right, let's talk about plagiarism and academic fraud. Plagiarism is a pertinent problem not only in academia, but in the professional world as well. It is up to you to be vigilant and prevent yourself from falling into the traps. Okay. In the lecture, we talk about copy viz with Nathan. I'm not going to go into that right now. It's going to take way too long. But that's how plagiarism affects people in the professional world. Most plagiarism, tell the truth, occurs unwittingly. Usually how it happens is that passages are copied directly from sources without any indication of being quoted. Okay, this is mainly a failure in research in that you're not keeping track of where you're getting stuff from. It sometimes happens through patch writing, where you're attempting to paraphrase something, and instead of using your own wording, you're pulling phrases from the original. Also happens with a failure to indicate the source or ideas of data integrated into your own words. Okay, this is where most of the plagiarism I see regularly comes down to, and I don't call it plagiarism. I simply just say, where is the citations? Okay, a lot of student writers will integrate a lot of information that they're not going to have common knowledge of, but they do it and then they don't cite it. They don't tell me where it came from. They just throw all this junk out there like information vomit. I gotta pick through it and find out where it came from. Okay, it doesn't work that way. You need to have citations. You need to have indications of where you're getting the information from. Less often, what you see is conscious plagiarism, which would be academic fraud. Okay, this would be stuff like turning in a paper mill essay as your own by putting your name on it. This would be copying another student's essay. This also includes copying your own essays if it was an essay written for a different class or a different semester. If you copy chunks of text from sources without attribution, or if you're just plain old fabricating data, pulling numbers out of your butt, basically. Okay, these are all considered to be academic fraud. Okay, so how about some strategies to avoid this? Okay? At the very start of you want to read your class policy on plagiarism. Make sure you know what will happen if you're caught. Okay, and know the difference between plagiarism and original work. One other thing you can do is pose a research question rather than a topic area. Okay. Instead of just working with a generalized topic that's going to allow you to do oodles of research and regurgitate everything you find, pose a research question and limit your research to what answers that question. Okay. At the note-taking stage, create a bibliographic entry for each source. Okay. This is important. Copy passages into your journal word for word and include quotation marks. This is also important so that you're not so that you know what's a quote and what isn't. Avoid patch summaries or paraphrases, as we talked about. Distinguish informational notes from personal exploratory notes. There's a tactic for that ENGL talks about. We're going to talk about it in detail next week. All right, then we have in writing the draft. To avoid plagiarism, write entirely in your own words with the sole exception of quotations. Okay? Make it sound like you. Don't try to alter your voice. Don't try to make yourself sound more intellectual than maybe you actually are. Okay? Just use your own voice. Make it you. Indicate all quotations properly. Signal phrases, quotation marks, citations. Avoid patch writing when summarizing or paraphrasing. Do not be tempted to lift anything from the original, even if it has a strong wording. Never cut or paste website passages directly into a draft. We talked about this in the lecture because some websites do not allow you to remove their formatting. So you permanently have a chunk of your essay that's in an entirely different font face and size and might have active hyperlinks in it. Okay? Use attributive tags and parenthetical citations within your paper. Okay? We talked about this. Cite all quotations, paraphrases, summaries, and any other references to other sources. I will say this. I would prefer to read a paper that uses too many citations as opposed to one that uses too few. A lot of people were listing a bunch of sources on their works cited on the classical essays, but then they had no citations for about 2/3 of the sources that they put into the works cited. We don't want that happening, okay? All right. Use in-text citations for all visuals, okay? If you were using a visual that you didn't generate yourself, include a caption and a citation so we know where you found it. Also use in-text citations for all ideas and facts that are not common knowledge. Okay? So let's go on and talk about what needs citation. Writers question all the time when citation is necessary in context with their work. As a general rule of thumb, any information that is not common knowledge should be cited. So this includes any quotation, any paraphrased passage, any summarized passage or otherwise referred to passage, any image, diagram, chart, or table if you did not generate it yourself, any sound or video file used in a multimedia project, and any idea, concept, or fact found from a source that is not common knowledge. Okay, so anything that you need to research to find out, and most people are going to need to research to find out, is probably going to have to be cited. Okay? Citation and works cited pages. Citations are intended to work directly with works cited pages in formal academic essays. They give a quick reference to the source, which can be used as a roadmap of sorts to the works cited page. Your citation should directly reference one of your works cited. Okay. The works cited page is directly referenced by the citations. There's a lot of information from the citations, which is obviously found in works cited listings, such as author names. Okay, this is the main thing that you want. Okay, author names. You also want shortened titles if you have some works that have no listed author, or you have works that are multiple works written by the same author. And page numbers for print sources. You need to know what pages the information appears on. As a quick reference, the physical textbook packets include the MLA style guide. The most recent one is 2019. Okay. Another good quick reference, especially if you're at a computer, is Purdue OWL, which I've given you the link for here. And in eCampus, there is a series of links to individual pages at Purdue OWL, which are important for the purposes of works cited, okay, that you're going to need for completing the AntiBibliography. In order, these sites are MLA in-text citation format, MLA basic works cited format, MLA books works cited format, MLA periodical works cited format, MLA electronic sources works cited format, and MLA other common sources works cited format. Okay? Pay attention to those, research those, internalize them. Okay? You need those when you're performing this bibliography. MLA forming and writing rules include not only works cited pages and citations, but also general layout standards for essays, such as spacing, pagination, author identification, and so on. So it is thoroughly useful to a collegiate writer. Okay? I would recommend bookmarking OWL. Okay? Now, let's talk about the AntiBibliography. As a team, you're going to be coordinating with each other to construct an AntiBibliography of the types usually called for in postgraduate work. Well, I'll make it 100% clear here. This is a team project. So you need to be in touch with your teams. You need to be in contact with them. They need to be assisting each other. Okay? Anti-bibliographies are useful for writers as they provide a brief summary of the research source and its use within the paper in question. The annotations under each listing also give an evaluation based on an author's needs as to how reliable or useful a resource is. Okay? So, what you guys are going to be doing in the teams, you guys are going to create a resource list. Each individual member of the group is going to be responsible for writing their own copy of the anti-bibliography. I'm going to share a whiteboard here because I need to demonstrate for you. Okay. So each member. Again, I did not mean to do that. Disregard the inch. Each member responsible for 2 sources, which means that in a 3 people will give 6 sources. So your final anti-bibliography would have 6 sources. Okay, for 4 people, you'd have 8 sources. And for a 5-person, 10 sources. And I know I told you not to do this, but I know there's a couple of teams here that are 6-person groups. So 6 people will produce 12 sources. Okay? Everyone is responsible for bringing 2 into the group for everyone to use. Okay. In the end result is going to look something like this. I'm going to share with you some of my past here. I found an anti-bibliography that I made for grad school. Okay. So this is the anti-bibliography I made in a master's level English 20th century English lit class. Okay. In this case, this is for an analysis essay about the Buddha of Suburbia, which is a book by Hanif Qureshi. Okay. In this case, the assignment stated specifically that I did not have to include the subject into the anti-bibliography, only the academic sources I was using to inform the analysis. Okay. So as you can see, this anti-bibliography has 4, 5, 6 sources on it. Okay. And we'll just take a look at some of these at random. We'll go with the second one here. Okay. So here's the bibliographical listing for it. It's for an article by Waddick Doyle. The title of the article is A Space Between Identity and Otherness in Hanif Qureshi's The Buddha of Suburbia, from a journal called Commonwealth Essay and Study, Volume 4, 1997, pages 110 through 118. Okay? So that is the basic bibliographical listing. Okay? All right, I want to point out here, this is using a hanging indent, where the first line of it is aligned with the left-hand margin. second line is one tab space in. Okay. Then we have the annotation. This one only uses summaries. It does not give usefulness because I determined that all of these were going to be used. Okay. Boyle argues that the characters of the novel challenge their identities threefold through description, narrative, and deconstruction. Issues in the theater with his ethnicity and how it is seen by his directors, Shadwell Pike, practice this threefold challenge to how Kareem sees himself, forcing him into an identity he is uncomfortable with. Okay, so annotation again is basically just a summary. Okay, tells what basically the source is being used for, how it's going to be used, and what information. Each one of your annotations should include assessment of the usefulness of your work. Okay. So let's see here. All right. So let's go on to the requirements for this. Okay. You're going to choose a topic from current events in the news as a group. Topic. Okay. You are going to need to find your own research question within the general topic of the group. Okay. Because everyone's going to be working with their own take on the topic. So the entire team's set of anti-bibliographies, every single one should be different. Okay. Even though they're all using the same sources, they'll have a different set of annotations and a different research question they're working from. Okay. One other thing I want to make sure that we're clear on, your research questions should be aimed toward writing an essay that will allow you to create a proposal. Okay. All right, so collaboration is required for this assignment to work. Utilize the discussion board to coordinate during the week with the rest of your team. If you have contact with your teammates outside of eCampus, collaborate there as well. This would be social media, email, cloud computing, whatever you're using. Okay, whatever you're using to do workshops, you're going to use that to collaborate on this project. All right, the formatting requirements for this. It will require MLA format for the bibliographical information. So make sure you are looking at how to format all of those listings. It needs alphabetical order based on the beginning of each listing. Follow MLA protocol for multiple sources from the same author. Okay, that's also covered on those pages I gave you. 11 or 12 point font, Times New Roman Arial Calibri or the font faces, double space. You will need hanging indents for the bibliographical listings, and you will need no indents for the annotations. Okay? Do not indent the annotations at all. Assignment's going to be due November 13th. This assignment will also act as the research basis for your proposal argument essay. So as you are gathering your research sources, focus your attention toward making a proposal for change. Okay? We're going to try to save you guys some time because we're coming down to crunch time in the semester. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and open it up to questions for 5 minutes, and then we're going to go ahead and do the discussion board for the last 3 weeks. Okay? All right, so do like Jed here has done and raise your hand. I see your hand there, Jed. What's your question?
Hi. This is just is there any way to get like tutoring through the school at all?
Well, here's the problem. Unfortunately, there is a writing center on campus, but unfortunately, because nobody is on campus, it's currently closed. The best bet for you is going to be to what kind of tutoring are you looking for?
I just need help with the mind tap. I don't have that much left, but it's just the ones that the assignments I have to do are really difficult, or I'm having a lot of trouble with, and I just need some help.
Okay, what specifically are the assignments that you got left? Because if it's like
I've gotten all of the video stuff done, like all the video quizzes and the video examples. Like I got all of those done. So the only type of assignments I have left are the worksheets.
Okay, those are mostly grammar, right?
Yeah, but you know, I think some of them had to do with like MLA format and in-text citations, you know, stuff like that.
Okay, so that's exactly what you need OWL for. Okay, Purdue OWL is going to be your best resource for this since there's really not a in-person tutoring available.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. All right, are there any other questions? Okay, Mirab, I see you there. What's your question?
It's not related, but I think it is. When I go to see the sample bibliographies and all that, it says that they are not available due to the wrong grades. So could you please upload the new ones?
Okay.
Let me just read out what it exactly says. So it says this is an example paper which made B or better for this assignment. This
Okay,
example is
yeah, disregard that again. I keep finding stuff that was included in the template. That is a file that has never worked. Okay.
oh, okay.
Any version of template. So anything that was preloaded into this template that I haven't had a chance to get rid of, just disregard it.
Okay, so is there any way I can open it and see those examples?
Unfortunately, you can't because whoever programmed this, they stuck that in, deleted the file, and then never removed the link.
Oh, okay.
So there's no file to see, unfortunately.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. What I can do though is I might have at least one other anti-bibliography from grad school. I can probably try to post those. Again, keep in mind that they do not include the evaluation part of the anti-bib that you guys are doing, because you guys are supposed to be evaluating the usefulness of the sources along with giving the summaries. But what I can do is I can post them just as general examples of anti-bibliographies. Like I'll do that sometime this weekend. Okay?
Yeah, and then same thing is with the last essay, the proposal argument.
For last essay, got the same thing. Okay.
Yeah, it says
well,
that these examples paper which made B or better for this assignment. Yeah.
all right. Well, I'll need to see what's there and what I need to remove.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
No problem. All right. Couple more minutes here. If I could get I could probably get one more question in here, and then we'll go move on to the discussion board. All right. There's no other questions here. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the last three discussion topics from the weeks. Okay. Starting back with week 7. Okay, and that is week. We're going to take a look at each of these topics, and if I have any additional information, I will give it to you. Okay, so here's the discussion topic for Banned Books Week. Annually, the American Library Association, ALA, publicizes Banned Books Week, a time to examine what books have been challenged most often in libraries and school systems, and warn about the dangers of public censorship. Part of the week involves releasing a list of the previous year's top 10 most challenged books. In past years, there's been a larger mix of topics that have caused controversy, some of which were highly serious. Little Bill books were pulled from libraries after the sexual assault conviction of author Bill Cosby, and some being utterly ridiculous. Webster's dictionary was challenged for including swear words. Bible was challenged for having a religious viewpoint. But in recent years, the list has become even more controversial as the primary topics being censored have gelled into one single primary topic. There is a video put out by the ALA listing the 10 books for this year. I'm going to go ahead and play that, but just keep in mind they only list very brief summaries of the reasoning for these books being banned. In the thread, I've listed more detail as to some of the wording that's been used in some of the challenges. But here is the ALA's video. All right, so just a brief little overview of all books. Okay, as I said, the listings in the discussion topic itself gets into more details. Okay. For your discussion this week, argue for or against the challenges of any one of these books or any other book you know of that has been frequently challenged in the past. If you are for banning the book, what elements make the book ban-worthy? Why is it important to keep the book out of public circulation or outside? If you are against banning a book, debate the opposition's reasons as listed for each book and refute the reasoning behind the challenges. Okay. So that one had quite a few responses. So let's take a look at week 8. Week 8, Columbus versus Indigenous Peoples. Here is the top. Today, the second Monday in October, is a federal holiday that creates a bit of controversy and dispute over who or what it should commemorate. The day was established in 1934 as Columbus Day to commemorate the journey of Christopher Columbus from Spain to the New World, thus leading to the exploration of the Western Hemisphere and its settling by European powers. This narrative became more and more challenged as the 20th century progressed. In 1990, the state of South Dakota redesignated the day as Native American Day to commemorate the people who had originally been living in the Americas and whose various civilizations were dispersed for all time by the arrival of Europeans. 2 days later, as an act of protest, the city of Berkeley, California, home of the University of California, officially designated the day as Indigenous Day within city limits, a designation that has become increasingly popular and spread further since then. Officially, there are 130 American cities and 16 states who have redesignated the day as Indigenous Peoples Day. Of the states, there are 3 differing approaches to recognizing the day. 7 states, Alaska, Hawaii, Maine, New Mexico, Oregon, South, and Vermont, officially renamed it either Indigenous Peoples Day or Native American Day. 7 states, Iowa, Louisiana, Michigan, Minnesota, North Carolina, Virginia, and Wisconsin, and the District of Columbia have given official proclamations of the day. And 2 states, Alabama and Oklahoma, celebrate a version of Indigenous Peoples Day under different names currently with Columbus Day. Regardless of how states have acted on the day, the federal government still designates it as Columbus Day on the official calendar. Meanwhile, our neighbors to the north celebrate entirely differently. The same day in Canada is designated as Thanksgiving. For your discussion this week, argue for or against changing the day from Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day. Why should or shouldn't the day's designation change? How do you justify your argument using the historical facts of the interactions of Columbus with peoples of the Americas? Or by extension, Europe's incursion on the continent? Okay. We have 2 sources for this. One is from CNN, and the other is a Google search on Google News for Indigenous Peoples Day. And we've had quite a few respondents to this. So let's go to the next one. That's the one from this week. So this week's topic is social media and YouTube as springboard. Here's the topic. Ways to get rich and famous over time have evolved drastically from the start of the modern era in the 20th century. What used to seem out of reach to anyone but those with the best contacts has seemingly turned into something as easy to obtain as a social media account, as numerous influencers have crafted celebrity identities for themselves and use their platforms to become outrageously wealthy, seemingly from doing simple things on camera. By far the best known and most successful of these celebrity stories belongs to singer Justin Bieber. Others outside of music have been making their way into the mainstream celebrity culture, ranging from professional video gamers, Tyler Ninja Blevins being the most famous pro gamer to date, signing exclusive line of cosmetics. The stunt performers, Jake and Logan Paul, more influenced now for their stunts than anything, still have built an empire off of YouTube and the now defunct Vine. The seemingly everyday individuals who turn on a camera to do things they enjoy. Numerous Let's Play channels have gained their hosts' fame. Some have begun diversifying their productions, such as Sean Jacksepticeye McLaughlin's Coffee Company and Mark Markiplier Fishbox Apparel line. For your discussion this week, talk over some of these internet success stories or find others to examine. Is social media the best way in modern times to gain notoriety and fame? What elements make these and other internet celebrities stand out, and what would make these individuals fame an attainable goal for an everyday person? Now, the sources I gave you are basically information on every single one of the influencers that I listed in the topic itself, including all of their YouTube pages and another page directly related to them. For Ninja, it's his Forbes profile. For Jeffree Star, it's the homepage for his cosmetic company. For Jake and Logan Paul, it's their Instagram pages. For Jacksepticeye, it's the homepage for his coffee brand, Top of the Morning Coffee. For Markiplier, it is the page for his apparel line Cloak. Okay. Not as many people have responded to this one. Also, there's been some more recent stuff in regards to how some of these influencers are now starting to get more attention. You may have heard about this, but on Tuesday night on Twitch, a number of these prominent gamers, especially ones who particularly play the game Among Us, were in on a stream where they were playing the game with 2 U.S. Congresswomen, Representatives Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Ilhan Omar. Were playing Among Us as part of a Get Out the Vote effort to reach young voters. As it turned out, AOC's stream of the event wound up drawing 400,000 viewers to her Get Out the Vote efforts. Okay? They were joined in their games by several prominent streamers who are well known for playing Among Us. Among those streamers include Jacksepticeye, Pokimane, and a few others who are more well known for doing Among Us than most other games. These would be guys like Disguised Toast, Dr. Lupo, and Corpse Husband. Okay? They were rotating through as the stream went along. All right, so it kind of shows how those influencers are now starting to reap some of the benefits of their fame that they have generated through these YouTube counts, okay, or through their streaming or through their other ventures. All right, so that's the 3 topics. We'll have set up for one more round of questions, and then we'll cut you guys loose. So if anybody has any further questions regarding anything, go ahead and raise your hand. I'll get them answered for you. All right, folks, if there's no more questions here, we're going to go ahead and end it for today. This session will move back to Thursday next week as usual. I won't have any doctor's appointments to deal with, okay? One thing I want to let you guys know, next week's lecture is going to be fairly long, okay? I haven't edited it yet, but I've got over 2 hours worth of footage that I need to pour through in order to assemble the lecture. Because we have 2 major topics we have to talk about. One of them is determining reliability of research subjects, or of research sources, rather. And the other thing is there's a final exam overview. Right? Now, one thing I will say is that the final exam packet has been posted. You may have noticed a final exam tab showing up on eCampus. It now has something in it. It has the final exam packet. I would actually recommend that you probably should download that packet and start taking a look at it. We're going to do a fairly quick overview of it on next week. As we get closer to the final, we'll do some more detailed stuff about it. But we'll at least explain to you how the final is going to work next week. Okay? In the meantime, please remember that your evaluation essays are due today. So if you have not done so yet, it'd probably be a good time to turn those in. With all that said and done, thank you for coming by, and I will see you guys next week.